What's good, YouTube, man? It's your boy, man, Jake Willie Silly, man, aka Mr. Take It Easy, before you end up like busy. But make sure y'all follow my Instagram and Twitch, man. In the description down below, everything you know about your boy Jay. It's in the description down below, you know what I mean? Subscribe to my second channel. Like, y'all, we at 882 subscribers, bro. And I do have content over there. You know what I mean? So if y'all do want to go check out the gaming content, y'all can do that. You know what I'm saying? Twitch, y'all, we going crazy. Finna hit 10,000 over there, bro. Hey, man. Y'all really mess with your boy, though, man. I really appreciate y'all, man. All the love and all the support, I don't take for granted at all, man, you know? But we got a disturbing case that still hunts Serbia. And if you do want to see these type of videos all in one, it is in the playlist section, man. It's, the playlist section is called True Story Reactions. I have true crime reactions, scare reactions. I do have gaming on this channel as well. Before I made my gaming channel, I was doing gaming over here as well. Got so much that you want to see, and I'm not saying that for my old subscribers, but I get new subscribers every single day. So I just be wanting to inform y'all that I got a playlist section, everything organized for y'all, so y'all don't have to go around looking for everything. You know what I'm saying? Fail reactions, whatever you want to see. You know what I'm saying? It's in the playlist section. But anyways, man, make sure you hit the subscribe button, like up the video, man. I ain't got too much to say, but let's get into the video, man. The disturbing case, I repeat, that still hunts Serbia. I repeat, Siberia.
This is Kazinet. It's just a tiny collection of houses in a single railroad in the middle of the Siberian tundra.
Are we on 1,000? We on 1,000? Okay, cool.
On the night of August 14th, 1989.
No, it's 2025. I gotta make sure we're in the
this cold, lonely stretch of woods until approaching something up ahead on the tracks. At first, the train conductors couldn't tell what they were looking at. When they could, the discovery would be one of the most gruesome and horrifying mysteries in modern Russian history. As always, although the events in this video are fleeting and non-descriptive, they are still highly disturbing, so viewer discretion is strongly advised.
These people done placed bodies on the train track. Bro. Gotta pour one for the dead homies, man. Pour one up, y'all. What y'all drinking on, man? Pour one up for the dead homies.
The village of Kazinet in Russia is the kind of place that doesn't show up on most maps.
Drink one more time.
It's tucked deep within the Siberian taiga, surrounded by an endless sprawl of pine and birch trees, and it's actually less of a village and more of a scattering of houses along a lonely stretch of railroad tracks. And with a population of about 24 people, there are no shops, signs, or proper roads, just
You said population of 24 people? That ain't Serbia? What the freak?
And with a population of about 24 people, there are no shops, signs, or proper roads, just train tracks, a few homes housing railway workers and their families, and a few dirt roads that seem to lead into the forest to nowhere. And given its location in August, the nights here are deceptively cold. Summer days can turn to sudden frost, and the sun vanishes quickly. By midnight, the landscape is swallowed by the kind of darkness that makes you feel like you're being watched. It was in this silence at precisely 1:40 in the morning on August 14th, 1989, that freight train number 2008 rumbled its way toward the Kazinet station. This train was massive, 70 cars long, hauled by a heavy locomotive and helmed by two experienced railroaders, brothers Vadim and Igor Supernenko. They'd passed through Kazinet countless times before, but this time was different. As the train approached the station, the brothers noticed something on the tracks ahead. Whatever it was difficult to make out in the sweep of the headlights initially, but Vadim sounded the horn, and at the same time he slammed on the emergency brakes. Unfortunately, a fully loaded freight train doesn't exactly stop on a dime, so despite the brothers' best efforts, they couldn't stop before they heard and felt the inevitable crunch beneath the steel wheels of the train. When it finally came to a stop, the brothers climbed down with their lanterns and started walking along the rails. They were used to wildlife near the tracks and even debris or the odd fallen branch, but this obstruction seemed completely out of the ordinary. And what they would eventually find would scar them for life. There, spread across the tracks, were the torn remnants of 7 people, although they might not have known quite how many people there were at the time. What was clear was that there was no movement or signs of life at all, and it didn't take much more than a momentary glance to determine that. The Supernenko brothers stood over the wreckage of what had once been a group of boys and realized they'd just become the unwilling participants of something horrific, something that couldn't possibly be explained by a simple accident. As soon as the dispatcher was alerted, the police from the nearby much larger Abakan station were sent to the scene. Floodlights arrived afterward, villagers were woken up to assist, and the grim task of retrieving the many parts began. Soon their names came in one by one, each one being realized to have come from the small community of Mesterchansk. Dmitry, Nikolai, Vadim, Oleg, Vyacheslav, Roman, and Victor. All of them just 15-year-old friends.
The freak.
They were a tight-knit group of boys who played soccer together, attended school together, helped their parents, and they'd apparently gone on a simple weekend trip to collect cedar cones in the forest. Frustratingly though, according to investigators, this was nothing more than a tragic accident. The boys had ventured into the taiga on August 12th and by the following night intended to return home on the 10:39 p.m. train. Something, however,
you said a tragic accident. Bro, what are you talking about, a tragic accident, bro? Their bodies are placed on the railroad track, bro, beside each other. There's nothing accidental about, like, what the, bro, I know you just said what I thought you said. Let me rewind that right quick. Hold on.
To collect cedar cones in the forest. Frustratingly though, according to investigators, this was nothing more than a tragic accident.
Tragic accident? Oh my God. Tragic accident. So they just placed themselves one by one on the railroad track. Are you dumb? Are you stupid? Bro, what type of investigators you got in Serbia, bro? Some dumb investigators, bro. It's an accident. Man, what, bro? Just say you want to do your job and shut the freak up, bro.
The boys had ventured into the taiga on August 12th, and by the following night,
how do you get on the railroad track if it was an accident then?
9 p.m. train. Something, however, had obviously gone terribly wrong. Maybe they lost track of time, or maybe they got turned around the woods. Whatever the reason, they apparently missed their train, and according to the initial report, they allegedly lay down to rest on the railway tracks.
Who the freak would lay down on the railroad track, bro? Bro, I'd rather lay down in mud. I'd rather lay down in mud. Nigga, I'd rather lay down in doo-doo than lay down on the railroad track. Who the freak in their right mind will lay down on the railroad track, bro? You sound dumb as heck. You know how many comfortable, bro, grass? Nigga. Nigga sound stupid. Lay down on the railroad track. That's the most dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Even more strangely, their backpacks were found later lined up about 820 feet or 250 meters away. That detail would be the thing that made headlines. 7 bags placed in a row near the tracks as if part of some kind of ritual or pact. And the implication was haunting, and reporters didn't hesitate to spin it as a possible agreement between the boys to end things. The idea was put forth that maybe it was deliberate. To the parents, however, this made no sense. These weren't reckless, troubled kids. They'd experienced in the wilderness, they weren't known to drink, and the toxicology report proved it as no alcohol was found in any of their systems. They were all well fed, healthy, sharp, and cared for. The idea that they decided to end things or nap on top of the rails was beyond absurd. Like, for example, if that was somehow the case, how had none of them moved when the train approached? How did they not wake up? Even the Supernenko brothers testified that they weren't walking the tracks, they were lying on them motionless as if placed there. Still, officials pushed the narrative that this was just a tragic, horrific accident. The boys were said to have been exhausted and had made a terrible mistake as a result, and the case was closed. But the parents obviously wouldn't let it go. Something more sinister was at play, they were sure of it. Unfortunately, they had no proof, no support, and no leverage, but they did have grief, which was further sharpened by what they viewed as an indescribable injustice. In the meantime, the people of Mezderchansk buried their sons in stunned silence, but this didn't last long. Soon, whispers became suspicions, and suspicions grew into fury. None of the families could accept the story they were being fed, and for 2 long years afterward, they pleaded with the local officials to reopen the case, only to have doors repeatedly slammed in their faces. Phone calls were also ignored, and paperwork was somehow lost. It was clear that authorities had no interest in revisiting the tragedy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Serbia, that's crazy. I know in the United States, if that was to happen in the United States, bro, they on that night and day. Oh, no, I guess that's just a Serbia thing. Like, yes, an accident. We just going to close the case. Like, what? Or even I can see that wasn't an accident. You know what I mean? Like, what the freak? Is it an accident, or did they first you said it was an accident, and then you said, yeah, they just wanted to end it. They're set. Like, what, bro? You make no sense. Clear as day, it's a murder, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's clear as day. It's not no like, I was finna say it, bro. You know what I'm saying? Can't say, but it's not no nigga suicide. It wasn't no suicide, nigga. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't none of that. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? You feel me? Them boys was killed. You know what I'm saying? And placed on that railroad track intentionally. And the killers still killers, because there's no dang way a one man took out 7 boys. You know what I'm saying? So killers. I don't know if they came across what bro said, a cult. I don't know what they came across, but they came across something gruesome. You know what I'm saying? For all seven of them to die, I don't know who the freak they came across, but they came across some gruesomers. That's what we gonna name them, gruesomers. I repeat, gruesomers.
The original investigation not just been flawed, but
come on, bro. There gotta be some gruesome people, bro. 7 died, not 1 survived. 7 boys. You know how hard it is to kill 7 men. I mean, they were 15, if I'm not mistaken, that were the age, but 7 still 7, bro.
Corrupt. In the face of this, the families went over their heads in the biggest way they possibly could. In the fall of 1991, they penned a desperate letter directly to Russian President Boris Yeltsin, appealing him to order the investigation to be re-examined. At the time, though, the Soviet Union was crumbling and the country was spiraling into chaos. The chances were slim that anyone would even read the letter, let alone act on it, but by some twist of fate, the letter found its way into the right hands, and against all odds, it worked. On October 8th, 1991, the Prosecutor General's office officially reopened the investigation into the Kazinet deaths. 2 new names were then assigned to the case: Vladimir Guzenkov, an investigator for especially important cases, and criminal prosecutor Yuri Stolyarov. And thankfully, these weren't small-time paper pushers. They were serious men pulled from Moscow to handle difficult cases, and they got to work immediately.
There you go, bro.
They arrived in Kazinet sometime afterward to find that the scene was long erased by time that had passed since the initial discovery. Rain, snow, and rot had stripped away nearly every trace of evidence.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, you should be ashamed of your dang self, bro. Any officer that has something to do with this case, bro, you should be ashamed of yourself. No cap, bro. Trying to make it seem like, just because you don't want to work and just because you lazy, bro, you trying to make it seem like it was an accident or suicide. You should be ashamed of your freaking self.
They also found that what little had existed back in 1989 had been mishandled by police or outright ignored. Vladimir then began by knocking on every door, interviewing every local, and pressing for details again and again. What he found, strangely enough, was a wall of silence. The villagers, nearly all of them related to one another, claimed to know nothing. They all said they'd been asleep at the time the train rolled over the Seven. As he continued to press, though, Vladimir kept hearing the name Vasily, who was a local man serving time for killing his own brother Slava. The murder seemed like just another drunken brawl, but in light of the new investigation, it now looked different. Especially when Vladimir learned that Slava may have let it slip while intoxicated about what really happened to the Seven at Kazinet. Upon learning this, he went to the prison, and over multiple visits, he chipped away at Vasily. At first, the story was muddled and it shifted, and then a confession emerged. It was partial and reluctant, but it was enough to really begin to push. Vasily then let slip that he and one of his other brothers, Yuri, had been involved, and just like that, everything the authorities had insisted wasn't true came crashing down. The deeper Vladimir dug, though, the clearer it became that Vasily's story just wasn't lining up. It still seemed he was being deceptive. Vladimir then requested that the families allow him to exhume the bodies. It was a dark undertaking, but when the caskets were opened and forensics experts took a second look, what they found changed the narrative forever. The Seven, as had been suspected, had not been killed by the train. Instead, it was determined that they'd been attacked savagely and methodically. And the injuries were chilling in their consistency: fractures to skulls, jaws shattered on both sides, and trauma to the chest and abdomen. Each of the Seven bore the unmistakable signs of blunt objects. Experts also ran tests using biomannequins trying to replicate the wounds, and found a match only when they used the exact tools found in railway depots. It was clear this was no accident, and now there was physical evidence to actually prove it, or at least investigators willing to not look the other way. The Supernenko brothers would then back that up with their testimony. According to the 2 train drivers, when they realized what was on the tracks and saw them in the train's headlights moments before, they weren't scattered chaotically. They were lined up and arranged, placed on the rails exactly where the train would ensure an unrecognizable end. This also aligned with the state of the backpacks, the complete lack of alcohol or drugs in the victim's systems, and the absence of panic injuries. Vladimir's new working theory was that they were ambushed, attacked, and then laid across the tracks. With that, the case file was now a murder investigation. And
who the freak want to just attack random people for no freaking reason, bro? Like, you're crazy, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'll be saying you got some wild folks, and you know what I'm saying? That's why I'm always looking. I don't care, bro. You could think I'm weird. You could think, you know what I'm saying, I'm strange. You could think I'm finna go blow the place up. You could think whatever, bro. When I step outside this car, I'm looking at every car. I'm looking at everybody. I do not care. You know what I'm saying? How you look at me. I don't care. I don't trust none of y'all, bro. Walking around me. I don't like you being behind me, bro, so I'm going to turn sideways. I feel like you're going to cut my neck open, bro. Even when we in the grocery store. Yeah, I feel like you're going to cut my neck. I don't know. My mind's just weird. I'm sorry, bro. No, don't mind me, bro. But I don't trust you, bro, standing behind me like that. I don't like people standing behind me, bro. I feel like you're going to cut my neck open, bro. You know what I'm saying? Just what it is. I don't trust people, bro. I just don't. People rub me the wrong way. I always feel like somebody up to something. That's what it is. I always feel like somebody up to something, bro. You could be minding your dang business. I just feel like you up to something. I don't know. What if this is the day that somebody places a bomb in a grocery store? And I'm in here. What if this is the day that somebody want to do a shooting? Because when them mass shootings went on, they didn't know that was going to happen during that day. So what if this the day? Y'all remember that? Yeah, it was just, I seen it, bro, scrolling on the YouTube For You page. A Kentucky church got shot up. I think 2 dead and 1 injured. But mama always used to ask me why I always bring a gun in the church. Jay, why you bringing a gun in the church? It's the house of the Lord. Okay, yeah, and the Lord prepared me for this. The Lord gave David a sword. The Lord gave David a rock. Was it a stone? The Lord gave David a stone to knock Goliath out the ground. The Lord used David. You know what I mean? He used David. He used a lot of people. The Lord has prepared me. The Lord has gave me the sword. You know what I'm saying? I'm in the Lord's house. I know God protects me. But I feel like God made me this for a reason. You know what I'm saying? I feel like God made me in a certain way for a reason. I feel like God has gave me that pipe for a reason. I ain't hurt nobody. But best believe if you try to hurt me, what I'm going to do? Let's be real. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, God used me. What I'm going to do? You know what I'm saying? Man, come out here. Come in my church, start shooting up everybody. What I'm going to do? God save me, Lord, 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 Lord. I'm not saying God can't do it because he's God. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm finna do, just sit down and just pray? And just let him kill me? Oh, no, no, no. I'm going to pray while I'm shooting blanks. Lord, forgive me for I have sinned. That's what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Straight up. You laughing. I'm dead to freak serious. You know what I'm saying? I ain't laughing, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's why I say I don't trust people. You know what I'm saying? I just don't. You feel me? Straight up.
Questions and answers, because while Vasily had started talking,
no, you know how many effed up cases I've seen? I want you to go look at that true crime playlist section. I want you to go look up not even what I seen, bro. You know what I'm saying? What didn't happen to me and all, bro. Some effed up junk, bro. Real life stories. This ain't no freaking fake junk. That's one thing I give y'all, bro. I give y'all the real. I don't give you fake, bro. This is real. This happened in real life, bro. Real stories. So if you want to go see some effed up, bro, the most effed up case I ever freaking, bro. I dang near lost faith in humanity after I watched that freaking video. The junkie case, bro, that happened in Japan where they did to that girl. Oh my God. Bro, and then they got let out. Oh my God. Dude, I ain't want to watch that video. I advise you don't even go watch that, bro. But bro, and somebody told me it was gonna be the craziest case I've ever done. And I did some crazy cases. I'm talking about kids killing brothers, parents killing children. I've done crazy cases. But man, that case right there, man, that junk was the most unsettling case I've ever reacted to in my life.
Makes sense. His claim that he and a brother had done this to all 7 seemed unlikely. The boys were athletic and healthy. The brothers, meanwhile, were thin and sickly. How could these 2 men overpower 7 healthy individuals without one of them getting away?
That's what's getting them up.
This is when the story changed again. Vasily claimed that there had been a 3rd attacker, Slava, the brother that he had later killed.
Slava?
Vasily claimed that Slava had been the one to land the fatal blows, which was convenient since Slava was already gone and couldn't contradict anything. Still, Vladimir pressed on. He had a hunch this wasn't just a family affair, and then he managed to get another slip from Vasily. During a separate interrogation, Vasily blurted out a new name.
I knew I wasn't tripping. I'm like, bro, there's no way it's 2 dudes that did this to like 7 boys. No way.
Lie. This wasn't the name of just some villager. It was that of a senior police lieutenant from the nearby village who was in Kazina that weekend visiting relatives.
Police?
He was also a man of authority and power.
Lieutenant?
When Vladimir caught up with Nikolai claimed that he had left the village well before the incident, and this seemed like an ironclad alibi until the locals contradicted him. Nikolai had been there at the time of the incident after all. Witnesses claimed to have seen him drinking with the brothers and a local foreman of the track crew. They were all together that night and they were consuming heavily, apparently leaders of homebrew. Eventually, through more conversation, another name surfaced. A man named Pyotr, who was the foreman's brother, but Pyotr wouldn't be talking to Vladimir. It's not that he refused, it's that he was dead, having apparently ended things not long after the investigation reopened. At this point, things were coming together to form a disturbing picture. Then, during one particularly grueling round of questioning, the local foreman broke. He'd had enough of the constant questions and guilt, so he agreed to tell Vladimir everything he wanted to know. He would then name names, he described the night, he spoke about the drinking, the confrontation, and the weapons. And then came the final revolting truth of what really happened to the seven in 1989. 2 years prior, the sun dipped below the dense canopy of the taiga and Kazinet settled into its familiar nighttime hush. In one of the few houses near the tracks, though, there was a lot of noise coming from men consuming hard. At least 3 liters of homebrew were being passed around, maybe more. And the names around the table were already familiar. There was the local foreman and his brother, there was also Vasily and his brother Yuri, and the visiting police lieutenant Nikolai. They weren't celebrating or mourning anything, they were just bored, and boredom in Kazinet can be a dangerous thing. As the drinks flowed and the evening wore on, they eventually ran out, but that didn't have to mean their night was over. They still wanted more, but the only thing that could be considered a store in town was long closed, so they did what Kazinet men sometimes did when desperate. They went to the train station in search of yashes, which is slang for train cargo handlers who sometimes carry stash for barter or bribes. That night, however, there were no yashes to be found. There were just 7 boys, all strangers to the men, standing near the rails waiting for a train. They would claim that the boys were trying to short-circuit the rails using a piece of wire to trip the signal and stop the next train so they could hop aboard. But that story never held water. There was no wire or proof, and the boys had come prepared to leave on the 10:39 p.m. electric train. They knew the schedule by heart and had no reason to interfere with the tracks, but the men latched onto the excuse anyway. They needed any sort of justification, no matter how thin. A confrontation then erupted, voices rose, and then the attack began. According to the confessions, everything started with a police lieutenant. He was strong, muscular, armed, and filled with a sense of authority, and he didn't hesitate. When one of the 7 supposedly mouthed off to him, maybe trying to stand up for his friends or trying to defuse the situation, Nikolai hit him in the head with the butt of his firearm. This was apparently instantly fatal, causing the others to freeze. And for a split second afterward, the boys didn't believe what had just happened. Nikolai then shouted to the other men to finish them off and leave no witnesses. What followed was chaos. Any tools within reach were grabbed, and the men descended like animals. Some of the 7 tried to run, and one of them likely could have escaped, but Nikolai still had his firearm. He then commanded them to stop or he'd use it.
Oh, you got to use it then. I ain't gonna count. You gonna have to use it. Nigga, you gonna have to kill me, gang. I ain't gonna count. Nigga, I'm zigzagging and everything. No, you got to kill. I'm a nigga. I told you, I'm a nigga you gotta kill. You think I'm finna just sit here and just let you kill me, gang? You really think I'm finna just sit here and just let you bang my head, bro, with 2 bars, bro? Let's be out your dang mind. You got to use it, nigga. I don't believe you got no bullets in there until I hear some shots ringing out. You gonna have to use it on me. I'm sorry. Tell me stop, or I'm gonna have to use it. Nigga, use it then, Nick. That's how I'll be running. Use it then, Nick. Bust it then, nigga. You think I'm finna just sit here and let a nigga bust my head open with 2 bars and hammers? Must be out your dang mind. You better shoot me dead, nigga. You know, I'm a man with morals. I'm a man with morals. Nigga, I'm a nigga you gotta kill. I never understood why nigga point a gun at a nigga just stand there. Nigga, you point a gun at me, nigga, I'm running zigzag, nigga, crisscross applesauce. That's gonna piss me off. Nigga pulled a gun at me one time. Oh, shoot! Oh! Nigga, I ain't finna stand there and just, that pisses me off. You pull a gun out, but I'm dipping right off the gate. You better use it. You better use it. It's gonna be hard to hit me too, cause I'm running zigzag crisscross applesauce. And let me get a hold of my pipe. It's over, brother. It's over.
Those who were yet to be attacked then froze again, and the men continued until they were all lying in the dirt beside the rails. Afterward, Nikolai, a supposed protector of law and order, directed the others again, this time to stage the scene. A train was due to pass soon, so they moved the 7 carefully and deliberately across the tracks. Then they lined up their backpacks a few hundred feet away to help sell the story that these were just tired and foolish boys who lay down to rest.
Just killed these boys for no reason.
Then when the grisly task was complete, the men scattered.
Killed these boys for no reason.
Who lay down to rest. Then when the grisly task was
That's
complete, the men scattered.
Later,
the 1:40 a.m. train would come through Kazinet, obliterating the remains. By the time the Supernenko brothers stepped off their freight train and walked the track with their lanterns in hand, the men were long gone and the boys were well beyond saving. And with that, the truth, as ugly and deplorable as it was, had finally been revealed. By the time the case reached court, the entire country was watching. And despite the court convening in 1995, nearly 6 years after the initial discovery, the courtroom was packed with parents of victims, reporters, locals, and just people who had followed the case. For more than 7 months afterward, the trial dragged on through proceedings. And then, finally, when the judge read and delivered the verdict, it was so lengthy that it took over an hour. Nikolai, who led the attack, was sentenced to capital punishment, as was the foreman and brothers Vasily and Yuri. Finally, it seemed justice
Surprised you ain't getting death penalty. You getting death? I'm surprised. I'm be surprised they don't give you death penalty, bro. Ain't gonna go.
had been served. This seemed like a rare moment of accountability in a system where things could often be volatile. But just as the men began to wait in their cells, the country took a political pivot. In a move aimed at joining the Council of Europe, Russia began aligning its laws with the European human rights standards, including the abolition of capital punishment. On May 31st, 1996, the first deputy chairman of the Supreme Court of Russia filed a protest. In it, he asked to overturn the verdict of the court and transfer the case for a new investigation. The Supreme Court then agreed, and just like that, everything unraveled. Not only were the sentences tossed out, but due to the convoluted legal mess and procedural timelines, the previously convicted men were released just like that. And they weren't retried or held in custody, they were just set free. And if you can believe it, things got even darker from there. After his release, Vasily attacked a cousin of his who, according to some, had known everything and wasn't planning to keep his mouth shut during the reopened investigation.
You let them niggas walk.
Yuri, who was one of the brothers who was convicted, was also found dead by either suffocation or sudden pneumonia, depending on which report you believe. Then came...
This remind me of the Junko case. You let these niggas literally walk. These are the niggas that literally killed them. You let them walk. Wow. The justice system and failed people again. Wow.
The most chilling incident of all. A railroad worker who was one of the key witnesses who had helped remove the 7 from the tracks was also found under the wheels of a train at Kazinet, allegedly as a result of slipping and falling in the tracks. So as horrific as the initial incident was, somehow it hadn't just ended in 1989. It seemed to have just changed direction, but admirably through it all, the families who had been betrayed and beaten down by bureaucracy kept fighting. By the late 1990s, the story of the Kazinet 7 had faded from the headlines. Other scandals had taken their place, and there were more than enough of those. The country by then was cracking under the weight of corruption, war, and transition, and most people assumed the case was dead, but the parents of the victims were relentless. In February 1997, they managed to push hard enough for the Prosecutor General's office to reopen the case once more. This time under the legal banner of, quote,
circumstances... but love make you do crazy thing, but you think you ain't got no energy, but love, boy, for real, keep pushing. I don't blame you, keep it pushing.
Not fully investigated.
Nah, man, they walking free. That's wrong, man. That's wrong right there, man.
It would take 4 more years, 3 additional exhumations, 5 expert forensic reviews, and more than 100 witnesses.
Boys need justice,
not previously considered, forensics experts re-examining these same broken bones, and mountains of old paperwork that were hauled back out under the light of government offices. And through it all, one name that kept coming out during those years was that of Nikolai. Since his release, he had become a municipal deputy. You heard that right. One of the central figures in the murder of the 7 had
This nigga became a
become a municipal
Serbia, what the freak is going on here?
You heard that right. One of the central figures in the murder of the 7.
If he was in the United States, he would have been under the jail.
Correlated his time out of prison.
Under!
But in the fall of 2001, something miraculous happened. The Supreme Court of the Republic of Kakasha issued a new verdict, and Nikolai, the foreman, and Vasily were once again found guilty of the murders. This time, the sentences were final, but to many, they still didn't come close enough to fit in the crime. Nikolai and the foreman were sentenced to just 10 years in a maximum security penal colony, while Vasily got just 7 years. For the parents, again, it wasn't justice. And even then, Nikolai, true to form, never stopped filing appeals. The man who ordered the entire incident still claimed that he was the real victim, and the family simply endured it all. Despite the loss, lies, retrials, and political maneuvering, the truth finally came out and it stuck. Not because the system worked, but because the parents refused to let it stay buried. And in the end, they forced the world to look at what really happened on that cold August night in 1989. Kazinet was never and will never be the same as it was before the murder of the 7. The town, for all its supposed concern and regret over the case, always knew something, and its silence was complicity. What happened there is now more than just an unspeakable crime. It's a cautionary tale about the failure of justice and about what happens when the people in power believe they can get away with anything.
It's crazy.
If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching.
10 years, 7 years, what a joke, man. Serbia, man, long live them for sure, but that's a crazy case right there. I can't even explain how I'm feeling right now. Crazy.